Last episode, with some help from friends, we got the Levorg started and running. I drove it to Haltech, we finished the wiring, ready to be dynoed the very next morning. But then things didn't quite go to plan.
I got a message from Dave earlier, said there's a big pool of liquid underneath your Levorg. Turns out it was power steering. Turns out the power steering pump we got, which we had question marks on the whole time, blew up. So I picked up another power steering pump on the way here, quickly grabbed one and also grabbed the boys some food. That's very important. Look after your people. And so we're just whacking that in now. Dave's also wiring up the knock sensors, which are easy to get to with the alternator out of the way. Power steering pump in, onto the dyno, and then see what kind of numbers we can spin up.
It's actually pretty common for these power steering pumps to fail. I was able to get a freshly rebuilt one for a few $100, and after bleeding out the air and adding some fresh power steering fluid, we were ready to make our way onto the dyno to see what this car is actually capable of. We've actually been to the dyno quite a few times over the last 12 months of this build. Originally with the 1.6 litre direct injected FB16 and CVT auto, it pumped out a not so whopping 95 kilowatts.
That's the power.
We then swapped in the entire driveline out of the STI and came back. We nearly doubled our peak power to 180 kilowatts.
Great, that's good news.
Our inability to leave cars alone saw us back on the dyno with some basic supporting mods to have another go. We managed to get it to just over 200 kilowatts before running out of turbo. That shouldn't be a problem this time, so I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of numbers we can make with a built flat 6, big turbo and all the required supporting mods to make it work. There is a lot on the line, but luckily Scott the tuning fork is here to Sherpa me up the mountain to find the power.
Here we are, Scotty. Here we
Feel
are.
comfortable in here.
Good. A bit more comfortable than the last couple of nuggets that we brought through. So it's been a long time to get to this point. We're finally on the dyno. There are way more things that can go wrong. There's so much custom stuff. Every part is, the motor's been into a million pieces. The intercooler pipes, the manifolds didn't exist. So I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen today.
Well, mate, you've got all the right bits on it. So we've talked about the injectors. You've got big injectors, you've got a big fuel system.
2 fuel pumps.
The exhaust is big and you've got a cutout. It's intercooled. It's got the right compression. It's got the right fuel. At the moment, I'm pretty excited. We've just put all of the straps on it straight away to not muck around.
That's a big deal, isn't it?
Well, all I'm going to do is set up some engine safeties so that if it gets too hot or if it's too lean, so the air to fuel ratio is too lean as it's on boost, I'll set them up now for 2 reasons. One, I want to rely on them on the dyno so that I don't have to look at that stuff. It'll just rev limit if there's a problem.
Yes.
But secondly, if it doesn't do that while it's on the dyno, I'll just leave those settings in it, and then when you go out on the road, I'm not worried about setting those tolerances too tight.
All right.
So we'll start with that. We'll go through. Davo's configured everything, which helps me heaps because when you can come in and say, well, I drove it here, it drove good.
Yes, it did drive good.
There's a heap of stuff that I don't need to do then. So thanks, Davo. That's mint.
Dave's in the backseat, by the way. He's that invested. He's been here for the entire thing. Okay, time to start it up. Scott has put a whole bunch of shape into the maps, but also setting up engine protection. So now it's time to start it. Let's see what happens. Fans are on. Let's go.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a bit of a sticky beak here. SI drive. So we're on intelligent.
Hey. So this is super cool. Anyone that's got this era of Subaru will know about side drive. So that's where you can change the behaviour of the throttle mapping and, from a factory car. The Haltech can actually see it, which is cool.
What do we do now?
You just drive it. See if it gets hot. Got coolant sump up there somewhere.
All right, you ready for a soft one? Just to start, just kind of try and configure the dyno and just figure out where everything is.
Soft power run. So we're on 60% ethanol. We want to be closer to 80 because of how the fuel pumps and tanks and stuff happen. The ratio's not quite there. Scotty's going to do like a soft power run. Lots of engine protection in place just to see what it does. Coolant temp's like a little bit hotter than we want, but not terrible. So, soft power run, see what happens.
Yeah, the ABS just turned off, so I think now...
Do you want me to turn any of that stuff off?
I think we're unencumbered now.
All right. blew your diff out the side of it again. That's pretty funny. 250 kilowatts, just like that. Just like that.
Pretty cool, eh?
Yeah. We're putting more ethanol in down there. We're just also using it as an opportunity to do like a little health check, to check the oil, to make sure that everything's looking good, which it is. Nothing really to talk about here. The coolant is playing with us a little bit. It's not ideal, but it is recovering. The important thing is it actually recovers when it gets hot. It's just climbing a little bit over 100 degrees. Now we start playing with boost control. We've added some more ethanol in to try and get our ethanol content higher to give us a bit more of a window for tuning. And now we don't know what's going to happen. No idea. It could throw a rod out, could throw a piston out, could start leaking rubbish everywhere. So far, it seems happy, which is amazing news. We have put some more ethanol in the tank to bring our number up a little bit. So we should be sitting a bit higher, which is more conducive to power runs, people. Now it's time to start adding boost. Scotty added some timing and decided that it's pretty happy where it is. Now the only way to make power is to just screw a bit more air into it. So we just turn the boost up and see what happens now, right? Page up for power.
So we had 10. Let's go straight to 16. I've just set
Straight
up
to 16.
straight to 16. And this is going to be our boost control knob.
We haven't even touched our exhaust flap yet.
All right, first pull, no mucking around. We'll just do one. This is still 10 pounds, so it should make the same power as that.
Okay.
The only difference is going to be exhaust open to exhaust closed.
She's going to be loud.
So don't worry about the air-fuel ratio on the dyno too much. I'm going to be watching it in the Haltech software
Okay.
because the exhaust is probably not going to make it to
No.
my sensor at the back.
It might, but it'll go the long way by the atmosphere.
That doesn't sound very...
Whoa, there it goes. Does that tell you not really a restriction at this stage?
Not yet.
Good,
yeah.
good.
But it's a 3.5-inch exhaust the whole way through.
Well, at the back it turns into 2.5s or something through mufflers, so about 16 pounds now.
well
350
built.
like nothing, like
Well
like
built,
nothing.
man. Well built. So far,
Just 350.
we're
On
definitely
16
cruising.
pounds.
We're definitely cruising, eh?
That turbo's just starting to like do its thing now, right?
So,
Oil pressure looked like it just stuck around 60 something.
yeah, a little bit higher, I think.
Oh, that's probably a good thing.
1 sec. So just then, we went 7,300. That's kind of where I'm pretty happy. So I'm going to set the limiter at 7,500.
Yeah, perfect.
We're using 45% of the injectors. This is normally when I tell you, sorry, mate.
Yeah, I know.
We're done.
Fuel system's good.
We're on ethanol, and she's got there 11 to 16 degrees of ignition timing. So
We may run out of intercooler pipe and intercooler flow and stuff, maybe. I don't know enough about a turbo that size and how much it needs.
So this should be same boost, same everything. We better fix up the screen a bit here. All right. Same pull, 2 degrees of timing. What happens?
$367. Nearly 500 horsepower, people. 500 in a Subaru. Run number 3. Not worth it? Do you reckon it's worth it?
Not worth it.
What's that, 360 something? 370 kilowatts. We're not even finished, that's only on 16 pounds. We made 371 kilowatts or nearly 500 horsepower on 15 pounds, and now we're targeting 19, is that right?
19, and then we'll start to talk about the exhaust after this as well.
Okay.
That's probably where we might start to see a difference there.
Cross your fingers, people. May our rods stay in the engine, our pistons remain intact. So far, so good. $389 kilowatts, 520 horsepower. Holy
It's a good motor. We keep going.
We're getting near your Evo, mate.
Yeah.
Getting close.
This is about it.
Alright. Did we crack 400? Did we crack 400? 405 kilowatts,
Well done,
dude.
man.
That's moving.
That is an impressive build for it. The whole thing is crazy, man.
400
really,
kilowatts
really
at all four wheels.
Yep,
Manual
really
all
good.
drive station wagon. 400 kilowatts. I know there's people out there with like 2,000 kilowatt cars going, okay, mate, but like, this is huge. This is the craziest thing I've ever had.
And you know what the best bit is?
What?
Normally this is the time where I go, all right, man, well,
We've got
we're
heaps
out of
of fuel
injectors,
systems. We're not, are
the
we?
pump is a bit of an issue, the coils could... Let's just put more boost in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have the supporting mods, because if you're running at a fuel system, what else would tell you it was nearing its limit if you're starting to run out of turbo?
Starting to run out of turbo where I'm requesting a boost pressure and it's just hard and we're struggling to get it.
It's not doing that, is it?
Not at all.
Okay.
So not out of turbo, not out of
fuel.
exhaust, it's not out of fuel, not
Not
out
out of
pump.
exhaust? Nothing there's telling you that those mufflers are restricted?
Not yet. no.
Okay, because that's
So-
good power for those mufflers. Like they're made for
It's-
2-litre turbo thingos, you know,
So as a bit of an experiment, we can do nothing.
and test it with our big flap.
You want to just
I
change
think
it?
it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because if there's no change, you don't even need to finish the run, do you? Really?
No, we'll just come up to that peak number, but we won't hold into
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Give me a sec and we'll
Sure.
just do a bit of a health check on what just happened there.
One of the main reasons I put the flap in wasn't for the noise. It was for this exact moment, knowing that I want to have mufflers so I can daily drive it, but that it's not at the expense of power if you want it. Nice. Did you say 22 pounds of boost?
Yeah, 22. Man, I'm going to be disappointed if we don't get to 30 today.
No way. Are you serious?
We did the good strapping.
Okay. $427 kilowatts. We're creeping up on 600 horsepower. That's just nuts. So Scotty, I feel like we made a really reasonable power number, yet here you are, and you got your excited face on.
We're tinkering, mate.
This is a bit you like, isn't it?
Normally we run out of pump, injector, something. This time we ran out of wastegate spring, and I can't let anyone go like that. This thing, 425 kilowatts,
Walked it in.
walked it in.
Yes.
We're still on a relatively low boost pressure,
Yeah.
so let's replumb the wastegate so that instead of getting about double the spring pressure, I want to go 1.5 or 2 times the base spring pressure. Yeah, we got it, mate.
Sure, you're the
It's got
tuner.
pump, it's got injectors, it's got engine.
If the guy who tunes your car ever looks like this and sounds like this, it is a good day. It is a good day.
So engine RPM, we start 4 grand, comes on boost. This top one is our boost control output, is our boost control output, which is this valve here that goes up and up and up,
Yep.
while our boost pressure goes down and down and down, and we're pinned at 100%.
Got it.
So basically we've got the hoses off the wastegate. We're doing the best that we can, and it results in a boost pressure of 21.6 down there, and it ends up with, say, 20-ish, 21 up the top. So 21 pounds for 25 kilowatts of wheels.
So we are dodging together some AN and some rubber hose or silicon hose so that we can get some more boost while still retaining some of this stuff. And all we have to do is get under the car and screw in one more fitting, and then we should be able to make it work. It's dodgy. Don't do it this way at home, kids. So now all we got to do is connect that boost controller there, this side of it, back down to the other side of the gate.
Yep, so we're doing
good to go.
top and bottom method instead of just the bottom method now.
So we've utilised our original hoses here, so we don't have to completely reinvent the wheel, but we do need to run one video. All right, I'll get under there and do that now. So what I'm doing is, if you can see up there, that's the wastegate. I've added that hose, and that's the original one, and added that. It's really hard to see. That's what's going on. All right, our boost controller is done. Full Frankenstein. Look at this. Good job, Scotty. So we run this down. It goes down to the wastegate. That's that. Let's see what happens. I haven't seen him this excited in a while, because I normally bring in stuff with stock motors, which is just not as fun, is it? Big turbos, built motors.
It's awesome.
It's really what it's all about.
If we can roll out with 500 kilowatts of the wheels, I'd be pretty
Oh,
excited.
that's his aim. I'm already in the 400s. I'm happier than Leisure Suit Larry right now, right in the middle of the game after you work out with a thing. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we've now got our boost control flipped to the dual port configuration with our bit of a hack job, but we're already seeing just from a quick test now that it looks like it's responding.
Things feel good. So we've gone from bleeding from 0 to 100% to go from 10 to 22 pounds. We're now bleeding 0 to 50-ish% to go
cool.
from 10 to 22.
Cool.
So I'm hoping that buys us enough and we don't have to muck around changing springs.
Yeah. And I figured we'd be at 20-ish pounds for the kind of power, for what I thought the engine would take. We don't actually know. It's built for somewhere in this region. So it could still rods out. Like, that could still happen. So far it seems really happy and healthy, so we've just got to see.
You ready for this one?
Ready when you are, mate. Let's go. Low boost, right? So of our 3 drive modes, we've got Intelligent, Sport and Sport Sharp. That's an Intelligent, which is about 16 pounds of boost. Into the 400 kilowatts we go. All going well, we'll be up above our last personal best. Exactly the same. No changes, but we're going to open up the exhaust valve. That's a car. That sounds so good. That's epic.
No change again.
We've got restrictions somewhere, do you reckon? Cooler? Dip plumbing? I mean, it's 2 inches out of the turbo and 2.5 on the other side of the cooler. It's not big. I do wonder if that is just going, I've had enough, or that intercooler is saying I've had enough. These are parts you'd normally find on a 300 kilowatt WRX, you know?
Not on this, at this power level, I'm surprised. Only that you can get a lot of factory intercoolers that will do these sort of numbers.
Oh, okay, yeah, true.
So I'm.
Oh yeah, 100% duty cycle on the boost control.
Top to bottom, we're working as hard as we can possibly work.
I've never seen someone so disappointed over 570 horsepower in a Subaru.
It's good power, like it is
great
good. It's
power.
good.
I know, it's teasing you though, isn't it, a little bit? Because the turbo's there, the fuel system's there, but we might have some other restriction, maybe.
The whole thing's there. Mate, I'm still thinking spring. I'm still thinking wastegate spring.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's no big deal, man. That's just come back another day and enjoy the 570 horsepower or 425 kilowatts that have been made available.
It's super impressive.
It's really cool, man. And that power band, I mean, it looks like a big turbo power band, but there's plenty of meat under that curve, isn't there?
It makes over 400 kilowatts. As soon as it comes on, it's making more than 400 kilowatts the whole time. Like it'll go, and you can shift it and come back to 400 kilowatts again. So like it'll be
That's
wicked.
moving.
I don't have many better options other than wastegate.
That's fine, man. You've done even over and above what I was hoping for. I thought I'd be walking out here with like high 300s, and we are getting close to mid 400s there.
Promise me that 100% though. We'll put a spring in this, right?
I'll put a spring in if you want me to. Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon.
It's just I think dump off. Yeah, I think you got to take the dump off to get to it all, which is a bit of a job, but not the end of the world.
So should we? This thing just driving around normally. What have we got our base pressures at? So if we go intelligent is 13 pounds.
Yep.
Then we go to sport
mode.
Sport is gonna be
20.
19. What do you reckon? And then sport sharp
Is just everything.
25. Boom.
Fantastic.
All right, that works.
That's so cool.
The manifold design and the wastegate placement are too good. We can turn the wastegate back to front.
I'll come back and see you when I have a bigger wastegate spring in it, right? That's what I do. But it's cool to know the rest of the setup is like there and able to be able to do more.
I'm a bit disappointed.
Oh, don't be disappointed, dude. This is amazing. But I like your enthusiasm. So we heard of a bit of a weird noise and hello! We shredded the felt. Far out, that's wild. Not surprised, it was a reasonably old, shitty looking belt and we put a new pump on it. So yeah, belt's just gone Wi-Fi. Crazy. Scotty, I couldn't be more happy with that result.
Mate, it's fantastic. Strangely, I'm less happy. I'm a bit disappointed, but I am. Man, this is a powerhouse. This thing's got potential, eh?
Yeah. The turbo worked, the cooling system worked, even though I had big question marks about that initially. Nothing else really leaked out of it. It just went.
And there's some cars, it's a credit to everyone who's put time into it, because there's some cars that you tune that you battle every step of the way. This was an absolute pleasure. This was a masterclass in showing you just how to tune a car and saying, oh, look, you put this percentage in and it does this, and then it does.
Yeah.
And then your O2 trims do this, and then you put 2 degrees of timing, then you do. And we went round in that circle. It did exactly what we told it to until we ran out of wastegate.
So good. And running out of wastegate, again, luckily, is an easy fix, which is awesome. So I'll pull it apart, put a new spring in it, redo our system, although I'm pretty happy with that, actually.
Sorry about that.
I'll redo it with the proper dash fittings and all that sort of stuff. And we'll come back, but in the meantime, I'm going to drive it. Although, the belt.
Yeah.
The one mechanical failure which happened in the last 2 minutes, literally as we were just driving it around, was this belt completely shredded itself, and I have question marks about the old tensioner too. Now this is stuff I pulled off a motor that I didn't even know where this motor came from. It was a spare I got for these parts, and yeah, they failed. So I had on my list to replace this before the dyno, and I just got too busy and forgot, so that's on me. But the car is tuned, a new belt on it hopefully tomorrow. Come grab the car and drive it home.
Man, we're making, what, 425 kilowatts. It's got about 20, 22 pounds, something like that. Very impressive power, but bigger capacity engine. It's variable cam control. The switched cam controls all working. We've got all of our SI drive stuff all working. It will be a hell of a car to drive.
Yeah, and there's more potential, which is also exciting, right?
If you promise that we need to put a wastegate spring,
I will.
Come back. I want to see 26, 28 pounds through the G35 900.
Yeah.
500.
You reckon that's where it's going to sing, don't you?
I think it needs more boost. Yeah, I think that the turbo is probably bored in there.
Well, I'm not going to be bored.
Yep.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Pleasure.
This has been so fun, and I cannot wait to drive it. Just one belt holding me up. I have done a shout out on socials, by the way. Who's got a belt? So there's hope I'll be driving this home, but most likely I'll be going to the shops tomorrow, getting a belt and cruising it. There we go.
The Levorg has gone from 95 kilowatts to 180 to 200, and now we have made another massive jump. With the exception of maybe the Cresta, this is one of the most powerful cars we've ever put together. And now, after many months of work, it's made 425 kilowatts at all four wheels, with only a shredded belt as collateral damage. So I figured it's time for a test drive, and where better than the track, where I could put that power to use without speed limits.
So here's where we're at, people. The Levorg is tuned. It makes nearly 600 horsepower. It still feels just as good as it did when we very first swapped it to STI. That jump was significant, going from the 1.6 to the 2.5 litre, the driveline, the suspension, the gearbox, making it manual, the nice interior. That was a huge level up, and that's something I'd recommend that if you've got a Levorg and you can get an STI, just do it. It's a game changer. Now, I've tried to push the Levorg more to being a Super Gramps replacement, which means big power, flat six, all these sort of extras and all the custom stuff, the Haltech, the turbo, all the help from Al and all my other mates, Dave, Benny, Woody, everyone. And now it's sort of like the car can do all those things. And it's fast. It's really fast. Is it perfect? No, I don't think so. I feel like I can hear a little rattle from the timing cover, like, you know, just little things. I guess when you're pushing this kind of power, you have to expect those things. Super Gramps was a stock engine, so you sort of could find its limit and it was never going to go more than that. This is already like 130 kilowatts more than Super Gramps already. So I'm kind of expecting that I'm not just going to be able to put it together and go, we're done forever. Like, I think there's going to be more that's going to have to happen. I'm going to learn a lot more about H6s. It's my first car with a built engine. Breathing, like there's a whole bunch of things. These engines are just starting to sort of hit their stride with popularity. People are just now starting to really push the limits of what's possible. So I think in the 400s, you're already sort of asking for it. Mid 400s, yeah, you're pushing at 500 kilowatts, although that would be the goal, personally. I think that's going to take maybe another iteration of this engine, maybe. But it drives. It does all the things. It's a bit harsh, it's a bit noisy, but it works. And all the vitals in the Haltech are good. It's just happy doing what it's doing. And I am happy driving it, because this is very cool. It just feels more modern, more tight, and a nice upgrade, a generation 3 really of my Subaru wagon adventure.
I know I'm supposed to get all philosophical about the meaning of all this, but this car represents an evolution of skills and knowledge rather than some timeless classic or another YouTube dream build where it's just someone dropping into the workshop and watching other people build their cars. I've been there every single step of the way. I've liked these cars for all the reasons I've banged on about for years. Practicality, traction, balance, power, and easy to work on. And working on them has been made even more enjoyable thanks to the hours spent with mates just figuring it out, working together to achieve a goal. Where I see an awesome street car, some people see an old Subaru, and that's where the Gramps nickname came from. Grandpa cars doing boring grandpa things and no one looks at them. Gramps then became Super Gramps when the original shell got ruined, and Super Gramps went back to its home to start a new chapter. Around 5 years ago, I made a note in my phone for what one day might replace it, and I titled that Hyper Gramps. And who knows, maybe if the car can stick together, the name might stick too.
Well, Martin, you've done it. Good job. With the help of the Mighty Car Mods family and the crew, you've made what, as far as I'm concerned, is the best Levorg on the planet.
Oh, thanks, man. It's so much more than I could have imagined. And when we started this out and I picked up that crappy black one from, well, this car from up the coast and drove it home, I was so underwhelmed.
Yes.
The only thing I could get excited about was the fuel consumption, and that's not something I'm generally that excited about anyway. Then we went through the process of like swapping it to make it look like it does, and then decided that that engine wasn't enough.
Yeah, and here we are. We're now at stage, you took it to stage 99. The question is though, for that much power, like almost 600 horsepower.
570 horsepower, 420 something kilowatts, that's where we got to because of our wastegate spring, so.
What are your other options for something that could perform at that kind of level and still be modernish? This is what I can think off the top of my head. Skyline, like GTR. RS3, RS4, RS6, maybe BMW M5 or something. M3s, no.
Well-
Someone out there's, mine's faster.
Yeah.
But not for the money. Like it's still budget relative to how much cars cost now, people. MX-5s are 60 or 70 grand now. Like Golfs are 100 grand. Like the world has gone crazy.
Now,
that is still cheap.
600 horsepower is not what it was. I mean, people are driving around in dailies that make 1,000. But this is all-wheel drive. There are also packaging limitations of a Subaru. You can't just go and whack a big 2JZ. I know some people have done it, but keeping this format of engine and gearbox, you can't just whack a 2JZ in that makes 2,000 horsepower and go, yay, look at me. Like, there is limitations and you've got to sort of play within them.
Yeah.
And we've managed to play within it and make it still work, still look like a Subaru, still drive really nice. The cold start's good. Like, all that stuff just works. All the gearbox control and the center diff still works. That is one of the things that makes this, I feel like, the right way to do it, because you don't lose too much. It's a bit noisier, maybe. You know, it's a bit more clacky because it's a built engine and you've got those things, but that's kind of it, really.
If you are playing along at home, and we were talking about this before, if we kind of talk in very broad brushstrokes of stages, I know some people don't like that. We're not massive fans either. You look at a stage 1, a stage 2, a stage 3, a stage 99. Stage 1 in a way is a no-brainer. It's what engineers have designed within the capabilities and limitations of the engine anyway. You do some kind of intake and you get a tune, you unpeel a banana, off you go. Stage 2, by the time you're doing like front mounts,
Turbos.
like dump pipes, stuff like
Turbos,
that.
or is that 3?
That's 3, you know, that you kind of go, cool, like it unlocks a bit more, but sometimes there's more noise and more whatever. Stage 3 or 3 plus, which is what we did with the Golf, that's by the time you're doing turbos and fuel systems and stuff, you start to potentially increase the chances of your car not being as reliable and not having those modern things that you had before. But in this case, at a stage 99, there are going to be limitations to the things that you can and can't do with the car, such as just wind in more power easily, because each kilowatt and each multi-bit of a second down the quarter mile becomes harder and harder to get and more expensive from this point onwards.
Exactly. And so this turbo's got more in it. We discovered on the dyno, and you have to be on the dyno to learn these things. We discovered that our fuel system is excellent and more than what we need. We're not sure about our intercooling because that kit's technically meant for a car with maybe 300 kilowatts, not 400 plus. We worked out the turbo is maybe slightly too big for our power target, or maybe we just need to feed the thing more boost, but we don't have the engine we'll put up for that. So, you know, this project is finished, but as we've discovered, a project is never really finished.
Look, project cars, they go on and on and on. But I get the sense from you being that this is not just a project that's been a couple of months. This is a project that Marty's loved Subaru wagons for decades, I would say. And so for him, in a way, this car, which I'm just going to call hypergrams, let's just go there, is the culmination of like decades of stuff. And I kind of get the sense a little bit that you've just had your wedding and you're like, it's all done.
I found...
You know what I mean? Like you've gone to the other end of the rainbow.
I found my original notes in my phone when I went back and looked, and I'd written hypergrams in 2018.
Yeah. Okay.
So that far back, that's nearly 5 years ago, I'd written like hypergrams, like what's it look like? How far can I go with supergrams in that engine? What's the limitations? Can I get built parts for it? And once I started to work it out, the idea for this came along because Levorg's only been out for a year or two by that stage. And I'm like, oh, maybe a Levorg, but at that stage, they're still 60 grand to buy. So by the time they're in the 20s, it all starts to make sense. And then the offer to build the engine with Possum Bourne came through and the wheels started turning. And at one stage, this engine was going in the Tudor STI. It's been back and forth constantly for a long, long time. But where I've landed, I'm really happy with. At the moment, you can get in, you can turn the key, you can drive it. It makes silly power. I'm keen to go and drag it and roll race it and do all that sort of silly stuff as well. But the project, in terms of what we are showing you guys and what we've done over the time, for now, is done.
You got to the other end of the Subaru rainbow, Martin.
Did.
What was there other than the blown head gaskets?
Well,
what's at the other end? For any young people at home that love Subarus and they're like, this is it. You've gone all the way over to the rainbow. There's the little pot and the little guy in there. Hello, like what's in there?
He's there going, you made a good choice because you still got all-wheel drive. You got power that will like smoke the wheels in four-wheel drive form, which is very, very exciting. And you still got all your practicality that you've always had. Chuck your stuff in it, chuck your mates in it, park it wherever. Like that is what you get.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, but that's not my dream sports car. That doesn't look like a Ferrari. Doesn't matter. Like this will do so many different things well, which is exactly what I was going for.
Well done, Martin. Good job.
Thanks, man.
I'm only smiling because, of course, it might be the end of this story, but that's also the start of another story. You know what I mean?
Always.
It's like we don't just end up with you having a fast car and me driving an up. Like that's normally how it goes.
You don't have as many to choose from now. I mean, this has set the bar reasonably high.
I know, man. And regrets, I've had a few. I have had a few. I'm not too ashamed to admit there's a few cars that I've sold or got rid of that I wish I could get back. And I made a call recently to try and get one back. I was like, I need that back because this is happening. And so I rang the person I sold it to. And that's a story for another time.
That is kebabs. We'll just take this. Just take this and go get
Let
kebabs.
me just get over this stupid Forester engine.
What's that
that's
doing
here.
there?
You know exactly what that's doing there, Martin.
I have my remote key.